some people wear their honor silently. Not with words, not with medals, but with the way they carry themselves. But what happens when that honor is questioned, mocked, and publicly torn down? This is the story of Colonel James "Jim" Harrison, a quiet hero, and a woman who forgot what respect means. Colonel James Harrison, 82 years old, walked into the bustling airport terminal with quiet purpose. He didn't wear his military career on his sleeve. No uniform. No fanfare. Just a neatly pressed blazer, a collared shirt, slacks, and a pair of old leather shoes that had walked through decades of duty. He walked slower now. Time had taken its toll. His back stiff from an old parachuting injury in Vietnam. But his eyes? They still held the same unwavering focus of a soldier who had once stared down death itself. He wasn't traveling for leisure. He was headed to Charleston, to attend the funeral of a fallen brother in arms. A man whose life he had saved decades ago during a firefight so fierce it still haunted his dreams. That very firefight was what earned him the Medal of Honor, though he rarely mentioned it. To him, it wasn't about pride. It was a reminder of those who never made it home. His son, a senior executive, had booked him a first-class ticket, insisting that his father travel in comfort. Just in case there was an issue, he gave him an upgrade coupon from his frequent flyer miles. Jim reached Gate B12, ticket and ID in hand. The gate agent, Brenda, barely looked up when he approached. She had already dealt with a delayed flight, irate passengers, and a reprimand from her supervisor. She was in no mood to smile. Jim handed her his boarding pass and quietly said, "First class, seat 3A." Brenda frowned at her screen. "HM. The system is showing this seat as double booked." Jim, confused, offered the backup upgrade coupon. Brenda took it like it was a dirty tissue, holding it up to the light, flipping it over. "This expired last month," she snapped, her lips curling into a smirk. "It's not valid anymore." Jim blinked. "Oh, my son assured me it was current. But my ticket was originally booked in first class anyway." "Doesn't matter," Brenda replied. "Seat's gone. Best I can do is 27E. Middle seat. Economy." He tried to explain again, calmly. "My ticket was confirmed for months. I'm flying to attend a funeral for a fellow soldier. My son wanted me to travel in comfort due to some injuries." Brenda cut him off with a dismissive glance. "Everyone's got a story, sir." Then Jim, still hoping for some recognition of his status, quietly slid forward his retired military ID, the one with a small insignia for Medal of Honor recipients. Something that usually prompted respectful treatment. "Perhaps this will clarify who I am," he said. Brenda looked at it for less than 2 seconds before pushing it back across the counter. "This looks like something someone could print off the internet," she scoffed. "And claiming to be a Medal of Honor recipient to get a free upgrade? That's a new low." Her words hit like a punch. Jim stood frozen, not in shame, but in shock. "I am not trying to get a free upgrade," he said, his voice now low, almost a whisper, but steely. "That is a legitimate ID. I am Colonel James Harrison. I am not a liar." Brenda rolled her eyes dramatically. Yeah. And I'm the Queen of England." Her sarcasm stung. Her tone was loud enough that a few passengers turned to stare. "You either take seat 27E, she continued, or you find another flight. I have a plane to board." Then, as if he were nothing, she turned away and began announcing pre-boarding for passengers needing assistance. Jim stood there. Still. Silent. Trembling, but not with fear. It was anger. Not the reckless kind, but the deep kind, the kind that builds when you've been publicly shamed and disrespected, not just as a man, but as a soldier, as a symbol of service. He picked up his ID, the original ticket, and the newly printed economy boarding pass. Then, without a word, he walked away from the counter and sat down in a corner. Calm. Focused. Determined. He pulled out his phone. This was not a call for customer service. This wasn't about upgrades anymore. He scrolled to a rarely used number. General Alistair Finch. Retired chairman of the Joint Chiefs. An old friend, and currently, as fate would have it, a board member of Amorous Sky Airlines. The line connected instantly. "Finch," came the familiar sharp voice. "Alistair. It's Jim. Jim Harrison." "Jim? Good Lord, man. What's wrong? You okay? I need your help. Something unacceptable just happened at Gate B12. Jim explained everything. From the expired coupon used as an excuse, to Brenda calling his ID fake, to the insult to his name, his service, and the very medal he wore with reverence. Finch didn't interrupt once. And when Jim repeated Brenda's sarcastic, "Yeah, and I'm the Queen of England," there was silence. A deep, heavy silence. Then, Finch replied coldly, "Stay where you are. I'll handle it." 6 minutes later, the terminal hushed. Passengers turned as a tall, imposing man in a dark suit strode through the gate area. Face like thunder. Purpose in his step. It was the president of Amorous Sky Airlines. He walked straight to Brenda, who was still at the gate counter, now cheerfully scanning boarding passes. He didn't shout. He didn't make a scene. He simply leaned forward and said 2 words. "You're fired." Passengers gasped. Brenda's face went pale. "Was, sir?" He held up a hand. "No. You do not speak to Medal of Honor recipients like that. You don't speak to anyone like that." He turned, walked to Colonel Harrison, and extended his hand. "Colonel Harrison. I apologize deeply for what happened. Your first-class seat is ready. And should you choose to fly with us again, there will always be one reserved for you. Respect isn't given because of status or medals. It's given because someone has earned it through sacrifice." Colonel Harrison didn't ask for honor. But when it was denied, justice found its way back to him.